since you live in Bangladesh, what do you think about the U.S. having an immigration plan? I just briefly outlined it. I'll outline it again. Bring in the best and the brightest. I like that idea. Bring in the hard workers. Use metrics to determine that. Have a golden visa program and get rid of these chase the illegals out, because if they've been here 5 years, there's a federal statute of limitations for almost every crime that you commit. If you're there for 5 years and committed a crime, they wash it, and if you do that, then you wash all these illegals and give them a pathway to citizenship. So give your opinion on this, Dr. Shree.
Okay. First thing first, those who are immigrant in USA, definitely they have to follow law, rules, and regulations of the USA. And honestly speaking, I want to be very honest. How I see USA and their immigrations and other things. Maybe even some Bangladeshi, even many immigrant, they're violating law, rules, and regulations, which is not appropriate. I definitely against these things, and I request all of the audience, please follow the rule of the USA. Second thing, as I am a talent economist, I do focus on talent, how I see the improvement, how I see the progressions, how I see the future. There are a lot of talents around the world. Definitely, USA has best ecosystem in this world. But what is most important thing is that a country, if they want to be the leaders for economy, for all of the things, even USA has their heritage last few decades, that they bring all of the talented in USA, and they build up all of the big companies, they build up all of the good business and everything, and they become the symbol of open society. But what I see presently right now, this is an alarming that maybe many talented peoples like in 1990s, they do not have opportunity to get involved in US economy, and as an immigrant they can contribute. Even though if you see that all of the Nobel Prize winner in USA, I think around 40 to 60% people actually they are immigrant, and all of the big companies like even they are immigrant in USA. But how he is stopping, this Trump administration is stopping all of the things, and they have right, they can protect their country, they can protect their immigration laws and everything. But I'm sure through this process, in this AI innovation time, with this all of the technological improvement and everything, USA may lose economically as they have economical challenge and burden. Secondly, they may lose lot of talented. And I'm very aware that I think, Nick, you are not in USA right now. You are in Spain. Am I right?
Yes, I am.
Yes.
Barcelona.
Even I know many brilliant people. Let's say I know many brilliant people right now. They are leaving USA. They do not stay in US, even though someone live in Europe, someone right now. I think this is right now what we discuss about Bangladesh. Bangladesh is not a good place, and there are a lot of brain drain. I think I do not want to go for similarities, but it's look like many brilliant people, talented people, they are leaving USA. USA may have shortage of talent, but honestly, talent people they do not need boundaries. Like we are in the internet era. I am from Bangladesh, Nick from Spain, Sasha from Canada, right? Jatovi from USA. So four people from four different countries, and we are go for open discussions. That is the way people gonna contribute. That is the way people gonna collaborate, and they can make a huge change for this community. Talent do not need boundaries. If you create boundaries, you will lose your leadership. That is the things we are observing from USA.
Okay, well, maybe we should hear from the USA. We have Jatovi, who's in Durham, North Carolina, so we do have our USA representative, and get his opinion on the USA immigration plan that we don't have.
I mean, we need to. The immigration plan that we don't have, I mean, we need to create a pathway for citizenship, which we don't. We need to be more welcoming, which we are not. We need to stop demonizing individuals from other countries, or individuals who speak differently, or individuals who pray differently. I mean, we were supposed to be a melting pot. but we become an isolated, hey, they're taking my jobs, they look different than me, they pray to a different God, I don't like them. That's what we become, and that deters a lot of individuals right now because of the actions of ICE and so on and so forth. When they rant and rave about people not crossing the border and blah 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 blah, it's because people don't want to come. People don't. You have people scared to come because it could be them. So what's the point of me immigrating to the U.S. to learn at Stanford, one of the top colleges out there, and learn, we'll say, biomedical? And what's the point of me doing that and starting a business in the U.S. when I might be put in jail just for even being here, just for college? So our immigration policy needs to be, and the interesting thing is we talk about this open door policy. It was never open door. It's not, hey, come on and blah, blah, blah. It was never a true, this open door as if there were no rules, regulations that people had to abide by. It was a lot. It wasn't as strict as it is now. It wasn't a deterrent as it is now. So yeah, we need to have a pathway for citizenship for those who have been here. It'd be nice to give them a way to become citizens so they're not having to worry about particular things. A big reason why the immigrants are less likely to commit crimes, fear. So they're not gonna speed. They're not gonna do a whole bunch of stuff because of fear, and they shouldn't have to live that way. But again, we need to create a pathway for citizenship in terms of, the education stuff. All that's already there. And the more you are welcoming to individuals of higher education, of higher work status, those individuals want to go where they're welcome and they can make money. If you give them an opportunity to make money, they're going to go and find that opportunity to make money. But right now we're closing those doors. It doesn't have to be so, hey, we're only going to accept the best and the brightest. The best and the brightest might have also been the individual that opened up a food truck that is now into a restaurant, that is now into a chain. That's still somebody creating jobs for this area and actually adding a huge amount to the economy. And it didn't have to be this individual who comes in on a robotics degree that's creating the next set of AI robots. It doesn't have to be that person. So that's what we forget in this, is that the best and the brightest is a very subjective term. It's a very subjective thing. And in our history has been used to basically segregate and isolate ourselves and not really help improve ourselves. The best and the brightest will come. The cream of the crop will always rise. But the thing is, we've got to create a pathway. We've got to create some legal boundaries, yes, and stick to those legal boundaries and be able to set it up to where the best and the brightest want to come. Where Dr. Sharif, for example, where he feels welcome to be able to walk into the U.S. and not have to be harassed. But hey, I'm offering an opportunity to the youth in Tennessee. I'm offering an opportunity to the youth in Texas, North Carolina, and people see him as an individual that they could lean on and not, hey, this man's coming in here to take my jobs and take over. So that's where we need to be in terms of our immigration policy. It's not just about policy, it's about culture as well.
That makes sense. Hey, Nick, did you watch the Olympics? Because the Olympics the opening ceremony was really about the celebration of peace and the celebration of diversity. I mean, we talked a little bit about that with the Super Bowl, but that's also what they were doing. I mean, I believe it was the Olympic chair that used the term. It's a South African term. It was actually a Swahili term, if I remember correctly. I remember Robert Chuck Davis using it, called Ubuntu and everything, which is I am because we are. And she actually quoted that very short phrase, which is trying to be a unity phrase for all of the world and to encourage people to come to other parts of the world. And that's what she was doing. And then I think it was Charlize Theron that quoted Nelson Mandela and some of his peace activism in South Africa, because she's from South Africa. So I don't know if you watched that opening ceremony, but it was definitely a celebration of diversity and peace and everything like that. So I did watch that on the weekend. So I don't know if y'all any of you watched it and realized the messaging that was being put out by that in terms of encouraging people through sports to be diverse in whichever part of the world they are.
Yeah, well, the thing is, that's more European because, Mark, the thing is, the European Union, they had to have all the countries get along with everybody. So they're more into diversity because that's kind of a European thing. What I found interesting, though, the Americans were booed on when they came into the Olympic Hall, and there was no real response to that. But part of it is because we do get a lot of news that comes from the U.S. Nothing on the Super Bowl, but we do get a lot of the news, and it doesn't look very good. And your friend, I think your President Donald Trump has really upset.
Well, he's upset a lot of people, but I did have a question about Donald Trump because he did something that's economical that some people did not catch, and it was he actually aired a commercial and everything like that. And I know some people that probably have a lot of issues with it, but apparently he's trying to use our kids as a way to encourage economics. So I was wondering what y'all's thoughts around this because it did air during the Super Bowl, but it's supposed to be this childhood credit that every child is supposed to get and everything like that they're claiming that they're going to give to every child, and that was one of the commercials. And they did try to celebrate and show a lot of diverse kids that were excited about getting this child credit or whatever it is for basically you had a child and then your child gets this money they're supposed to keep until is it 20 or something like that? I forget what
they call them Trump accounts, believe it or not. Now, what a nice name, Trump accounts. That shows a person who's very humble and not arrogant at all to slap his name on the account. So that's the typical American arrogance that the Europeans don't like, Mark. And so that's the reason the Americans all got booed. I don't think they particularly hate Americans, but they hate the leadership that you have that has no plan, the leadership that is constantly antagonizing the members of the European Union, and so they're getting a lot of pushback from the European Union, and they neglect the fact the European Union has 430 million people. I mean, and that doesn't include Great Britain because Great Britain Brexit, they're gone. So you're basically dissing a union that's bigger than yours, as oddly as that may seem. Although our GDP isn't as large, but then again, they have a lot of social safety nets here, which they don't have in the United States. So it's just a different way of life. But getting back to immigration reform, and I'll get Jatovi's take on this because I just think it's kind of a waste of time chasing immigrants all over the U.S. So my proposal is to do a 5-year statute of limitations. Part of it, when I was doing my research in this area, there is a federal 5-year statute of limitations on most crimes. In other words, if you were to go rob a bank, okay, and 5 years passes, then all of a sudden, ta-da, you're past the statute of limitations. And there's statute of limitations on assault. You go beat somebody up, battery. 5 years passes, ta-da, you can say, well, I beat this guy up 5 years ago. You're forgiven. But there's no statute of limitations on immigration crimes, which are ridiculous, even though they exist in almost every other crime except murder and rape. So what is wrong with establishing a 5-year statute of limitations? So you came in the country illegally, you've been there for 5 years, you worked, you did whatever you did, never committed a crime. Why don't we allow a statute of limitations for this particular
So it would be, I mean, it is more complex than I guess the generic, hey, statute of limitations is reached, you can't be charged with this crime anymore, and it's over. So there has to be some more, I guess, strings attached. So in terms of how do you get that person, is it just you hide out for 5 years and then you're a citizen? Do you have to go through some type of form of education just like all the other citizens?
Yeah, you file an application like everybody else does. In other words, it's not your crime is basically forgiven. You can now go fill out the application. See, right now, what you have to do is go back to your home country and then make an application to the U.S.
Yeah,
okay?
and I think that bringing people back to the home country that they left from is idiotic in the first place,
I agree.
because they left for a reason. And then even more so, a lot of the individuals that they're forcing back to have never been to those countries in the first place.
Yeah.
So it's like you're really creating an extra headache and an extra problem. So I mean, there's probably a way to work around the statute of limitations idea of, you know,
Well, they don't
being-
even have one right now. You can be in this country for 30 years, never commit a crime, be married, go work every set, and then you can be deported. Seriously, you know? So you've got to stop this insanity somewhere. Yeah, I guess we have Sasha has a point.
Actually, it's a very simple issue. Remember, the legal immigrants, what makes them legal instead of illegal, they were paying up to $10,000, sometimes more dollars to their lawyer to fill up the application, the blanks, and all the paperwork or so on. Now, illegals, they haven't paid $10,000 to their lawyer. And that's where the crime is. Rather than that, I don't see any other crime. So they avoid, they punish the lawyers withstanding their $10,000. And there are quite a lot of them. So we are talking about millions and tens of millions and probably trillions of dollars that didn't come to the pockets of the immigration lawyers, but stayed instead with these so-called illegal immigrants. So here is a simple solution. So 5 years, you were hardworking and you were making a living and so on, and you elect not to pay $10,000 then. So pay $20,000 now. This is your punishment for not saying as a good boy, okay, here's my $10,000. Hey, Mr. Such and Such, okay, I was born as this and I was living there and I was working over here and over there. You skipped that. You kept $10,000. So now you have to put $20,000 and do the same application, and we'll let you know what's happened.
But there's also a tremendous amount of fraud that goes on. Like, if you get the LA Times always has stories of people who go to a crap lawyer who just takes their money to supposedly paper their status, and takes their money and doesn't do shit. And these people have lost their money and lost their chance to be.
Completely agree with that. And honestly, with the tax situation,
Wait. The attorneys are supposed to abide by the ethical rules of their state bar association.
Yeah, but
If you have a problem, you file a complaint with the California State Bar.
Yeah,
But
but
I can tell you what the problem is because being over here, I have the same problem. It's the language barrier, Rick. In other words, I'm filling out forms all the time. Now, I have my own international tax attorney who helps me. I have my own international immigration attorney who helps me. So I hire people to help me on this. But there are some things I'm doing by myself. And I can tell you, the volume of forms can be extremely problematic.
This is also a problem.
And yeah, there are some bad attorneys out there. And the problem is if you're from a foreign country, you don't know the system.
That's right.
And
This is something that also affects the public schools in LA, where if you're in a district where the parents speak English and you get a crap administrator at your kid's elementary school, the English-speaking parents know who to complain to, and they move that shitty principal over to a school where the parents don't speak English, don't know what to do, and so you can have elementary schools in adjacent districts that one is 80th percentile in terms of quality, one is 15th percentile because the non-English speakers got screwed.
Yeah,
Well, I think
language barrier is a real barrier, and it's a real problem when people come to the United States or go to a foreign country. That you're a bit of a disadvantage due to that, and also the lack of understanding the legal system. Like the legal system here in Spain is so different than the USA. They have what they call reclamations. They don't have that in the United States. I'm going through one right now because a bank literally did this. They ripped off 1,722 euros from my account, and they called it a commission. It's kind of like usually people rob banks, But when I came to Europe, the bank robbed me, and I'm going like, I'm still trying to get that money back because
What would they say it was for?
Commissions.
But there's
I
no reason
I
for
transferred about $250,000 from one bank to another, and they ripped off 1,722 for commissions because they had to move the money from one bank to another.
Right.
It's
But
not in
this-
my agreement. I'm just going like,
So
how you guys? By the way, trying to get it back is a problem. If the banks
But
go,
that thing, but
So what-
that same issue
What-
is here and everything. Because look at the service
Well,
fees that they charge for overdraft fees and everything like that. And
oh, I
that
know,
is-
but I get with an overdraft fee, it's $40. It's not 1,722, which
So what
translates almost $2,000 for a
and
commission.
depending on what's going
What
on
I
with the
wanna-
overdraft fees, it can add up to that amount.
yeah, but what I want
you have to have
to
a lot of service fees to get up.
what I
to
want to
that.
get back to is what Rick was talking about and a little bit about what Sasha was talking about, because yes, there are a lot of scammers. And Nick, you brought up about the amount of paperwork and the language barriers and all this other stuff. A lot of these individuals are living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of these individuals are coming over with no money. And even after 5 years, there's some that are still struggling. So when we're throwing these financial burdens on top of these issues that they're already having, we're creating a poverty class, and it's not helping them improve and become those individuals that we keep wanting them to be. And we're not giving them the opportunity because we're not giving that pathway. That's why, yes, I mean, the idea around around the statute of limitations just has to have some strings, but we have to figure out. And if we look at it, when we talk about the taxes and the back taxes, one thing that we forget, and when we're talking about that, these individuals undocumented, they're already providing in federal taxes already. And I'm using the word provided deliberately, because they don't get that money back. When we pay federal taxes, we're in tax time. We get tax breaks and all this other stuff. We get those kickbacks. We also get the benefits of, from healthcare and so on and so forth. We get those tax breaks on federal benefits, on federal taxes that we pay. These individuals are providing that money because they don't get those benefits, and they're providing all upwards of $100 billion a year in federal taxes. Federal, state,
usually it's Jacoby, it's Social Security taxes they're paying into the system, and they're not getting it back.
Exactly. So they're actually providing taxes.
Yeah,
We're not. We're getting that money back.
They're getting. By the way, talk about being scammed. Think about it, Jacoby. 12.4% of their income, 12.4, will go into Social Security, and they'll never get it back. Isn't that a U.S. scam?
That's a totally U.S. scam. But the
How
other,
can the United
That's
States
where-
support such a scam?
And that's where, when we talk about that pathway to citizenship,
That's the reason you have to do it.
and that's and in terms of that pathway to citizenship, we have to realize that when we're talking about all these financial burdens and everything else that we're wanting to throw on top, they need to pay $10,000 in back taxes or $20,000. They're already paying taxes.
Yeah, you're right. They're paying in and not getting anything out. But
I want to talk about some other immigration-based BS. Trump's the jobs market in the U.S. has collapsed. Last year, the U.S. grew by jobs increased by 584,000. This is 1/4 of the usual annual rate for the past 15 years. This month, the January job numbers look like there'll be about 22,000 jobs added, which is about 1/8 the usual rate. And Trump's spokespeople are saying, well, it's because we're kicking so many people out. And that is just straight up bullshit.
yeah, but also you got to look at this, Rick. The jobs in Europe, like in Spain, are non-existent, and in Turkey, where I just came from, unemployment is 16%. I mean, that's reported. So if you think there's a lot of people, I'm going to go to Spain, get a job. No, you're not. You'll go to Spain, you better have a job in the United States. Otherwise, forget it. because there
Yes.
are no jobs.
You know, the job market is horrible in a lot of places, including some of the
Yeah,
African
yeah.
nations. But I had a question for you about your immigration plan and everything like that. Nick, what is it going to do with one of the biggest issues that exists in the Latin American community, has existed for a while? And I've had friends that have actually done whole entire telecom or telenovela about it and everything. But a lot of Latin American people get scammed by payday lending. So what would your plan do in order to address that issue? Because that is an issue that a lot of immigrants are getting scammed and
Well,
having to deal with.
yeah, well, I mean, you have a lot of scams in the United States. First of all, on the legal side, to lower the cost, at least the Florida bar, they have mandatory, or at least they used to, where you have to do pro bono work, voluntary work. And California should have the same thing. So there's a lot of attorneys who will donate their time to help people through that. In terms of scams, we know, because the show coming up will be on timeshare scams. The timeshares, which you guys have, is illegal in Spain. You cannot get timeshares and buy points and stuff like that. And same with the payday lending. Those things just don't exist here. I'll have to go look, but I have not seen any of the payday lending scams. So basically what they did here is they made it illegal. Now you could make the timeshares illegal when it comes to these point things. Unless you're buying a hardcore deed, forget it. Because these point things are just one big scam. But our show is pushing federal legislation as we speak, with senators in the United States Congress, not my show, but the show coming up 2 from now, to back that. You could do the same thing with the payday loans and also interest on credit cards. Man, it's 20% right now, Mark. That's a little on the steep side. We used to have usury laws in the United States. Now, Dr. Sharif may be familiar with usury laws. It's like Sharia law. Sharia law, no interest, but usury laws say, well, interest, but up to 12%. And then the banks worked hard to get around those laws in certain states and then exported these credit cards, like in South Dakota, all over the country. And now the credit card's 30%, 20%. It's insane. And so, yeah, this is something we'll discuss, Mark, with David Walker, because there needs to be reform in the area. They rip poor people off, and they rip rich people off. But the fact is, rich people just pay it; they move on.
However, if you try to fix that system by capping interest rates, then it means that people who are poorer credit risks can't get credit, because one of the reasons the credit card companies offer credit cards to people is they hope you'll get behind and end up paying the 22% a year interest.
But that's a scam. No matter how you look at it. And Rick, at one time we did have usury laws, I think 12 and maximum 18%. You can do that. You can have usury laws. You don't have to allow banks to go to 20 or 30%. And over here, I don't know what they do, but remember, the banks make money when you buy things. Okay. And they charge you, a merchant, if you sell things. So when we sell our pension services, depending when our clients usually put on their credit card, and we're going to pay 2 or 3% to the bank. Okay, so please don't cry for the banks when it comes to making money on credit cards. They'll cry enough if you start trying to put laws that actually make sense for consumers.
I'm just saying what their arguments are.
Their arguments are they're greedy, Rick. They want profits, okay? And at 20%, I can make those numbers work. 30%, I can get rich. At 12%, I can just make a living, and that's about it. But remember, that's 12% to you, but they're also charging me as a merchant. So they're getting on both sides of this equation, and probably we'll have to have David do a special on this, because it is a big U.S. ripoff, these credit cards and payday lending. Years ago, I went to one of those payday scammers, and it was about 20% interest. That one, 20% was interest rates were 10. I needed some money to make payroll, and went there, and they, loaned it to me, and then I paid them back, but with a big.
Just want to point out
not right
that the payday lenders and payday loans and all that you are correct. It's definitely a huge scam. But you know what was actually starting to protect us from that?
What?
The CFPB.
Oh,
What got dismantled? The CFPB.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, a lot of the consumer protections have been dismantled by the U.S. government, which means you're on your own. That's the reason I say, when you're tired, you're poor, you're huddled masses, don't come to the United States.
Let's be
This is-
specific,
this is
though.
a hard
Who
country.
dismantled these things?
Yeah.
That was Trump who dismantled the CFPB.
Yeah.
Not-
because he didn't give a rat's rear about consumers, Toby. You know?
So I mean that's where I'm all about being. Let's be a little bit more specific and being honest about it. Yes, the CFPB wasn't. It started under Obama. It was improving. Then Trump got into office, of course. Then Trump wanted to loosen the payday lender loans. And then the CFPB rolled that back in 2019, or wanted to fight it against in 2019, pushed it through, I think, in 2020, 2021. But then, it's now in 2025 is when they dismantled the CFPB. And so now, we have
Trump has no internal governance. He has no ability to think on his own. So when people approach him at Mar-a-Lago and say, this is bad, somebody from a credit card company says caps on this stuff on payday loans are bad, Trump does not have the brain power to think of reasons why the person.
It's not that he doesn't have the brain power. It doesn't affect him.
Yeah, but
That's where it is.
also poor people don't have access.
Right.
I mean, that's the reality of it. In other words, if you're in the bottom 50%, you own 2% of the assets. How much did you donate to your congressman? Nothing. How much you donate to his campaign? Nothing. How much access do you have? Access to the congressman? Zero. Now, I learned that the easy way when I sat on NIFA's board. We were a PAC, a political action committee. They have power, and we had to write checks. I was writing checks every month from $2,000 to $600,000 to every congressman and senator, and I had access to the congressmen and the senators. That's how you get access. Money in Washington, D.C. talks. Everything else walks. They don't care. So how do the banks get access? Their PACs give them access to the senators, the congressmen, and that's just the reality of that. And so that's one reason you see a lopsided, but it's going to get worse, not better, because poor people have less and less money, and rich people have, now they're approaching 40% of all the assets, that 1%. So guess who can talk? Rich people talk. Rich people get listened to.
Trump has a
Citizens
policy
United
that
says
if you give
there are
him $1
corporations
million,
are people. So,
Trump, if you give Trump $1 million, you can hang out with him. He's got actual systems in place.
yeah.
And it doesn't have to be in money. It can be in stock in your company.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you have money in the U.S., you have access. So when they say all men are created equal, except, they should put except, people that have more money are more equal than others in the United States. They just need to add that line, and then it's more correct. Because if you have money, you have access. If you don't have money, your access is limited, and it's limited to every possible part of what you're doing. So it makes a very difficult situation. And so I agree with Jacoby on immigration. You get somebody coming in from a foreign country, they have a lot of stuff stacked against them. They have the language barrier stacked against them. They don't have any contacts here. That's stacked against them. You have a system that is based on dinero, mucho dinero, you move forward. You don't have dinero or falus, as I would say in Arabic. You're a nobody. It's just like in chess. Of course, Sasha left her chess player. It's all about your ELO rating, and every other metric doesn't matter. In the United States, all about your pocketbook.
Oh, there's a new doc out. I just watched the first half of about the Polgar sisters.
Oh yeah, Polgar. Yeah, Sophia. I played her sister Sophia in Bermuda International. So I'm a little bit.
How did you do against?
Oh, she beat the tar out of me.
Yeah.
It was okay, and it was really funny. It was a Bermuda International. I just won the Florida State Championship. She had won the tournament in Rome. Sophia was a good player. Okay, I sat down with them. Fans were coming asking for my autograph because they saw my picture on the Florida Chess News, and I'm sitting embarrassed because I knew the player sitting next to me, Sophia Polgar, was much stronger than I was. She was like 2,500. I was 2,200. And of course, she just like ripped me apart like I didn't even exist. And I'm
So what
sitting there like,
happened,
"What a
according to
virtual
the
life
guy,
I had in
so
my life."
there's this
What?
poor family in Hungary living in horrible conditions because Hungary sucked under the Soviet Union. The
Correct.
guy does research. How do you raise geniuses? And he
Mhm.
decided to turn his daughters into chess geniuses. And they
Yeah.
were into it. And then, like at 12 years old, the best, I think Judith was the
It was
best.
Judith. She was the youngest. Yeah.
Right. So at 12 years old, she led the Hungarian team to the women's world championship that had been held by Russia for the previous 30
Right.
years.
Right. And also the oldest daughter has been on our show before, Sousa Polka. She's been on the chess show that we run on the Pod TV network. But they're incredible. The three daughters are incredibly strong. Judith actually made top 10 in the world, which is, I can tell you, really hard to do.
She
Right.
played Gary Kasparov.
I know she beat Kasparov, and Kasparov was typical MCP. By the way, if you don't know what MCP is, start with male chauvinist oink. Okay, and the chess world is dominated with that. If you ever go to a chess tournament, which hopefully you don't have to do, you'll see it's all male oriented, huge, and not too many females. It's really the way chess tournaments are. So it's very, very male dominated. And you always try to figure out why. It's a whole subject of another discussion as to why is it's all males and no females, or very few in the world of chess, but it's been that way for decades. And yeah, I know it's playing on Netflix now. It's Judith Polgar, the real queen of chess, or something like that, is going on. I haven't seen it yet. I have Netflix. I just haven't seen it yet. I have been playing again at the local club here. I've won 23 games, lost one and drew one. I shouldn't have lost that one too. I feel bad if I lose any game. I feel bad. It's like I'm not supposed to lose a game ever, But you're human and you can make mistakes, and that's just the way it is. Where if you ever play computers, they're not human and they don't make mistakes. If you get a good program and they're in a bad position, they will drill you every time. So it is what it is. Well, that goes back to immigration. When I look at immigration, I'm going like, get your best and the brightest to put some immigration laws in effect and have an immigration plan that makes sense. And we don't have anything about it. Instead, all I listen to on the dumb news is it's like a cat and mouse game going on every day. With it's like thoughtless players are out there moving the pieces around.
The latest outrage is during a raid. There was a little schnauzer, weighs about 12 pounds, and one of the guys just booted the schnauzer.
Oh, really? Well, you also do have a certain amount of what I call untrained
they're
officers.
They're bad at checking backgrounds. So like they're letting people out on the street that don't even have high school diplomas. And sure, you could be a decent officer without a high school diploma, but the odds are that if you couldn't even make it through high school, you're probably not the best guy.
Yeah, I would say so. You do have a bit of a problem. You're not getting your best and the brightest on the ICE team right now, and that's creating a lot of havoc. With that, let me see what our timing is here. We're going to have to get ready to go.
3 more minutes.
3 more minutes. Any further comments, Dr. Sharif? I know you're muted from Asia, but Asia is a very important part of the Pod TV network. Muslims are a very important part of the Pod TV network. I mentioned the word Muslim on it was on a clip, and instantaneously 1,500 people were looking at the clip, and I'm like, what's going on here? So apparently the Muslim community is pretty big on the network.
So my last comment, I want to invite you all in Bangladesh, like Nick, Rick Rosner, Jatovi, all of you can visit Bangladesh. Recently, we have elections this coming 12 February. People has a lot of excitement, and thank you for this platform because I discuss a lot of things about youth and youth politics. Thank you, Nick Palveda. And I'm sure because we are also involving with Central Bank, different media house, with Citibank, and with different university, they are excited about the visit of Nick Palveda because you commit me that you will visit Bangladesh. So I'm sure there are a lot of fun and a lot of things happening in Bangladesh for all of you. I want to invite you all. Thank you.
Is your food good? See, that to me is very important. Is the food good? If the food's good, Dr. Sharif, I come. Okay?
Yeah, sure. You like biryani? You like fish? You like fruits?
I just like good food. I was at Turkey last week, and I thought they had the best food in the world. I mean, I couldn't believe it. So if Bangladesh has better food than Turkey, I'm there. So anyway, but in the meantime, we have to go because we have the media show coming up, and then we'll have the timeshare show coming up, and we'll see you next time on economics. David Walker will be here, and hopefully he's listening to this show. So he'll have an idea to be able to prep what's going on. We'll see you next week on economics with the Honorable David M. Walker.